it happens this week, June 15th, Wednesday, from 8 to 8:45, and it's a chance to have a non-political remembrance for those lost at Uvalde and those lost in gun violence and gun attacks around the country in the past few years. It's started by me and some of my friends. We're all students in the city, and we all wanted to have a time to get together and remember with other young people and parents and allies that this shouldn't be something that's seen as regular, and it shouldn't be something that we just take as granted as, oh, but it's never going to be us, or, oh, that happens over there, so it's fine. We wanted to take a second to say that, yeah, this could happen to us. Those children will never be able to go to school again. They won't be able to have field trips. They won't be able to have Christmases. They won't be able to have a favorite high school teacher or a middle school class that they really look forward to, because they will never be able to experience those things. And we have to take time and say that that cannot happen in a civilized society. And if we want to call ourselves a civilized society, we have to remember those deaths. We have to take time to think about what happened, and we can't just let it disappear and be like, oh, that thing that happened 2 years ago, oh, the one that happened 3 years ago, the one that happened 10 years ago, but not the other one that happened 10 years ago, the different one. We also are encouraging people to bring school supplies. Something we've been taught, and something I think that reigns really true for all of us, is that community is what helps prevent these things. And feeling like one is a part of a community is helpful to so many people, either in that sort of crisis or the people who have to deal with the trauma afterwards. So we're inviting people to bring school supplies, to remind each other that the best answer is an education, and the best solution is helping one another. So pens, pencils, notebooks, tissues, all things. There will be a box. Bring what you can afford. We know it's a really hard time for people economically, and so we don't want to feel pressure, but if you have, I mean, I know I have a few notebooks that I did not use any of this year, so I will definitely be bringing those, and if you have anything like that, that's what we're looking forward to.
For you guys, you're looking at if fellow students are being gunned down in these situations.
We're not just looking at fellow students, we're looking at people, and then we're seeing the people that we could have known through them. We're looking in people's eyes and saying, that could have been Mary, it could have been Jenny, it could have been Tesher, it could have been me. We could have been them, and there's nothing in place to make sure that we are not them in the future. Like, sure, we're on summer vacation, but what happens when we get back in the fall? We don't want it to be a political thing of like, oh, this needs to happen or this needs to happen, but something does need to occur, because we cannot feel unsafe while attending school. We deserve the right to have an education and to go to school, and yes, I deserve the right to complain about awful tests and hope that it's summer vacation by the second week of the school year, but I also think that every kid deserves that. I think us not being adults, we get to be in those rooms where those things are often either talked about maybe in a certain way that's like, oh, but don't worry because it'll never happen here, where sometimes maybe our feelings and our fears can be pushed a little to the side, or it's not discussed. Like in history class, it was not discussed at all, which I don't think is right. I think in any class we should at least have a time to recognize how scary it can be. I mean, we're high school students, but it does not mean we are invincible by any means. It means that we get scared and we get worried and we get anxious when we see young kids being gunned down and dying from an epidemic of gun violence, and something that happens over and over again. I know I didn't have the chance to go to the March for Our Lives this past 11th, but I was there in 2018. In 2018, we were like, this is going to be it, this is going to change, this is going to stop, and then it didn't stop. And I know, like, I wasn't alive, but like I know my parents were alive during Sandy Hook, and they were like, okay, we've had this, it's never going to be again, and then it's again, and it's again, and it's again, and it's again, and nothing seems to change. And so, yes, something needs to change, something needs to happen with mental health, something needs to happen with gun control, all of those things are really true, but we need to take time as students to recognize our fears and our anxieties, and to remember those lives that cannot walk the earth anymore.
So we're staying in Hurkamp Park right now, and that's where you're going to have a rally, like you said, on
Yes.
Wednesday night.
Wednesday night, 8 p.m., come out. We're in Hurkamp right now. We'll probably be around the water fixture. It's kind of local enough and centralized. I mean, most people have memories for Hurkamp, so people know it, and it's a nice thing to just come out and get together as a community to say that even no matter what, we will be a community.
And like you said, it can happen anywhere.
It can happen anywhere.
Anywhere, any locality around here is vulnerable.
It does not discriminate between your economic status or what race you are or who you pray to. It can infect anyone, and it has affected everyone, and we need to remember that. We can't just sit in our ivory towers and think that it can't happen in Fredericksburg, Virginia, because it can happen in Fredericksburg, Virginia. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if it didn't in the next 10 years, because that's where we are in the world.
Yeah.